we're here to have some fun. That's right. Mr. James Waters, Mr. Fun.
Mr. Fun.
Well, we're on the air. Cloud Foundry After Dark. Let's see who joins us.
With the funnest man in cloud.
The funnest man in cloud.
Who would be up this late? Who would join at 11 Pacific? I mean, we used to do it at Sunday night at 8, and that was like a dare. 11
It's
Pacific
like
is...
It's like the Putin dancing video. So what happened this week? I went to the Agile conference in
I'm
Washington.
going to regret it. There are only 2 options. Hey, who joined?
Tushar. He's been around. Tushar has been. He's an alumni now.
Yeah, I won Cloud Ops.
Yeah.
Tony.
Yeah, welcome.
Yep. Hey.
I didn't recognize you at first. Pardon me.
Yeah, it's alright.
Small picture.
Yep.
You're hiding in the shadows a little bit too.
Yeah, the lighting is bad here. Sorry.
No worries.
Join or regret it. There are only 2 options. That is my official CFAD tweet for tonight.
Ben likes to hide behind his non-picture too.
I'm back. What's up?
Here's my topics for this week. I'm going to drop them in chat. I thought GE Predix launch was massive. Massive event for CF.
Massive event for CF. They're obviously a Cloud Foundry Foundation member, but also they threw a little light on the old Pivotal.
Yeah, we can talk about that one. Maybe Ben and James adventures and road trips. The last 2 weeks we've been doing a little bit of talking to customers together. We could talk about themes there. I was up in Seattle.
I had a number of meetings in the old Washington, D.C. vicinity.
Yeah, and you did Agile 2015, right?
Yeah, me and Josh did our first tag team presentation together.
And Josh Long also gave I think we can say it because they tweeted publicly about it, a cloud native workshop for Comcast.
He dropped a little Spring Cloud on the Comcast.
And I believe the tweet was that was proper black magic and totally rad.
There was also references to blown minds.
After the talk we did at Agile, I should still post my slides. Although it was like 25 minutes of slides and then 50 minutes of Lattice demos and Spring Cloud live coding. And one guy made the comment that Josh basically did like a whole year of college level Java courses in like 40 minutes. He's like my whole year. It's like just flew in front of me in 40 minutes.
Yeah, that was one of the only talks at all of Agile. I guess let's start on your Agile debrief, Schaefer, because I haven't even heard it yet. So this is actually just useful for me. You did Agile, and I saw the tweets I saw were this is the only talk with code in it at Agile. That was pretty cool.
There were some other talks with some code, but we definitely had a tech heavy talk. And it stood out. It was on a track that was called craftsmanship. I can't remember the exact title. It was something like craftsman and technology or something. So it was a lot more tooling and code than other people or other tracks. But I think we might have went too fast. I don't know. We'll see what Michael's about to do. Is Michael friendly? Michael, say hello.
Hello.
Welcome, Michael. We're just making sure you're not spam because 2
We
weeks
had that
ago we
before.
got some sort of weird white supremacist spam bots attacking us, so we're still a little twitchy.
No worries. Yeah, so I mean Agile's kind of in an interesting state. The conference is relatively large. I mean we had a good section of the Gaylord in National Harbor, which I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's a pretty big kind of hotel.
View, right?
What's that?
Amazing view, the whole giant glass wall, like probably 30 stories, 20 stories high glass wall.
Yeah, it's probably 18 stories, I think, and then the view, I had one of the atrium rooms looking out over the harbor. It's nice. It's like a big biodome sort of setup. I wonder what their air conditioning bill looks like, but otherwise nice. But it's interesting. I mean, the venue aside, it's an interesting community. Kind of at the, it's sort of a community where a lot of the really vibrant minds in the Agile community like don't go to that conference anymore, or haven't been, and so that's kind of interesting. I've been speaking at that conference pretty much every year since 2009. The first year I went was 2008, and now I've spoken there every year except for 1 year since 2009. So just kind of seeing it evolve. It's at the same time, there's a lot of opportunities to meet friends that are great. You know, they're doing a lot of the stuff, and with Pivotal's background and the way that we do the pairing and all the stuff that everyone there kind of aspires to do, like that's really how Pivotal lives. And then you also see what I'll call the kind of the mid to late majority that they're literally trying to transform their companies, coming there to try to get better at software, right? So there's tons of these people walking around with 20 people from Walmart, 20 people from I mean, some of them are people we've talked to before, and a lot of them are just that enterprise segment where they know they want to do software. I actually had this was tweeted too, but some of the people who work on these kind of like immigration backends, and they're writing books about it actually as well, like how they're transforming IT and making a lot of progress in the federal space.
Yeah, I mean, it's something we don't talk a lot about on CFAD, but I think it's because we live in such an agile world at labs. Like, it's sort of just a given, but, the intersection of agile and platform is probably something, I don't probably spend enough time on Twitter talking about, or et cetera. Probably because I take it so much for granted now because I've been living it. But how much of a technology awareness was there among the crowd? Like, do they see technology as a key enabler, or do they think their problems are more cultural in nature?
I think that group has not necessarily over-rotated, but there's definitely a lot of emphasis on culture. It's a relatively non-technical crowd.
Yeah.
So I think there's a tendency, maybe detrimentally, to think that culture is culture or technology is your solution if that's what you know.
Isn't that weird to be a non-technical software crowd? I don't understand that. Help me understand that.
Well, it's a lot of people who are agile coaches, which is, I mean, that's also a thing about Pivotal. Like, we don't do that. We don't have that role. Not really.
I mean, that's something that Rob, kind of, not to speak for Rob, but just in my, taxi cab in London conversations with Rob Mead, our, founder of Pivotal Labs and one of the earliest agile people, like when they did Pivotal Labs, they really focused on we code with you, not we coach you. And not to pick some sort of agile fight, but the thing about Rob and Edward Hyatt, who still runs Pivotal Labs, it was freaking amazing. I was at, and I don't probably brag about labs enough, but we went to meet with, an advisor to somebody who was looking to, one of his portfolio companies, work with Cloud Foundry and Pivotal. And he's now essentially a VC. And he was like, hey, I still remember how good Edward Hyatt was when he was a developer at Google. Like when Pivotal Labs was consulting with Google. Like the guy remembered Edward 10 years, 15 years later. And Rob obviously was one of the top developers ever, helped save eBay's front page and restructure all of that. And that's why I'm kind of raising my heckles at this non-technical agile crowd. Because, I mean, if you want to talk about Rob and Edward, like they were the most technical, bad man, the kind of, tough guys, hands-on people of their day. They definitely weren't coaches.
I mean, they're like a player coach, right? They're like in the game, and so I think it's one of the things that happened in Agile, and I've been very vocal about this before, and I really was involved with Agile from the beginning of my career, as a developer at least. And the thing that I was very frustrated early on with what Agile was until I kind of met some of the people that were more pure, more practitioner. And I think that the Agile evolved for whatever reason away from the real technical things, basically through kind of the marketing of Scrum, which asked very little and promised a lot, and that meant that the kind of the more hardcore XP practitioners and some of the other fringe Agile practices kind of got scattered to the swamps like the Jedi, right? And so like you still have these pockets, and it's not just at Pivotal, but you have people like probably one of my favorites is Michael Feathers, who's out there who wrote a book called Working Effectively with Legacy Code, which might make a little bit less sense in the world with things like Ruby and Go, but definitely changed my life when I read it as a developer, Java, C++ developer when it first came out. And he's around and he's doing this stuff, but the real spirit of like that Agile engineering practice, I think that's embodied at Pivotal.
Yeah.
And I also would say, having gone through this full cycle with the DevOps transformations that people are going through, like you have to balance these things. Like the culture and the practice have to intertwine and reinforce each other. You can't go to something like a platform that is as holistic as Cloud Foundry and not have it have a huge impact on all of your processes. You just can't.
Yeah, I think that's maybe an interesting segue to what Ben and I have been up to the last 2 weeks. Working with maybe one of the top 5 auto manufacturers and one of the top 5 mobile carriers, respectively. And I think one of the things that I came away from one of our Seattle huddles, Ben, was the desire to be very prescriptive of what the organizational alignment around using a platform and developing for the platform and operating it maybe looks like for our partners and customers. And not assuming that magically once they see all the technology and everything it can enable that they know how to slot the organizational pieces together. So that's definitely something that's on my mind this week, is what we can do to help as a community get more prescriptive around what the post-platform team looks like. I don't know if Ben can hear me.
No words from Ben.
Was there a question?
No, it's just
a conversation, Ben.
It's just like I feel like you and I come in and like we talk about the stuff and soup to nuts and everything, and people are like, wow, rad, and like you get the technology nod and even the evolution nod, and then I think as a community just helping people to say, oh, here's what that looks like, and that doesn't mean you just get a Scrum coach or something. Like there's sort of a post-platform cultural world.
Yeah, this goes to a bunch of themes that we've talked about before, and talk to everyone who will listen in our day jobs. That the cultural transformation inside the organization is actually the goal, and the tools that we provide help you achieve those goals, but you have to know how to use them. And the thing about the tools is that they're effective exactly because they embody a bunch of opinions about how you should build software, how you should operate software. And if you only have one, if you only have the knowledge of how to execute those opinions, but you don't have the platform that enables them, or you just have the platform but you don't actually understand how to use them, you're stuck, right? And so this has actually been, I think, the problem with PaaS from the beginning, and why it's kind of a misnomer to refer to Cloud Foundry, especially what Pivotal Cloud Foundry is becoming, as a PaaS, right? It's this opinionated platform for the lab's Agile process, and that in turn is the enabler for the organizational transformation that all these companies want to go through to become technology companies, even if they're not seen as that, right? People, for the most part, don't see, say, Allstate as a technology company. But the transformation that they're going through, the innovation that they're trying to drive internally, absolutely means that they're a technology company, right? And a lot of this is how they see themselves rather than how the world sees them. And the sort of canonical example of that is people for much longer than they should have were referring to Amazon as a bookstore. And of course, Amazon is a a technology company that happens to sell books. And I think that a lot of these customers want to be technology companies that happen to do whatever the thing is that they're known for, whether it's insurance or it's building cars or it's cell phones, whatever it might be.
Based on the boxes that came to my house last week, they sell a lot more than books.
Yeah, but selling stuff, right, versus say AWS. A company like Barnes and Noble or Walmart are not going to make AWS, right? And AWS was a surprise to a lot of people who didn't understand that Amazon was a technology company. And I think now people understand that being a technology company, that culture around being a technology company is actually how they compete. And I hate the software is eating the world meme, but that's actually what it is. It's not that software is eating the world. It's that all these companies have to be technology companies in order to compete.
Yeah, I guess I'm just saying, like, I think they get that high-level picture, and for them, though, they've got these existing roles. And getting prescriptive on the evolutionary path is, I think, something that I want us to be better in terms of our recommendations. Like, hey, when you come out of this, you're going to need 2 ops people that can run a platform on 3 clouds for redundancy. That's all you're going to need for operations. You're probably going to need X number of people that pair on CI out of 100 of developers, right? Like we have toolsmiths that help a little bit with some of the CI maintenance. You've got 1 PM per 6 developers or 4 developers as teams. And I think that people need to understand the organizational model as they transform, just as much as once they get the tech.
Yeah, I would actually challenge that a bit. I don't think that they get the tech. And it's not that they don't understand that it is software or how it works. And this is actually, I think, a really common problem that we run into is that a lot of these companies, because they don't understand the culture and they don't understand the opinions, the prescriptive nature of Cloud Foundry, they think that they don't have what they need talent-wise, right? They don't have the right people. If only they had magicked up, the super cool kids that they see writing the blog posts or whatever else, right? Then they would be able to do it. But if they don't have that, then they can't.
Silicon Valley hackers. That's the classic. Like, let's go hire some Silicon Valley kids that are 21. Then innovation.
Yeah, and it turns out that the people they have are actually awesome and far better suited to doing this transformation because they're so close to the business. And anyone you bring in from the outside is going to have a pretty steep curve coming up to speed on the business. And these folks at the same time know how to build software, but they don't know how to do it this way. And so this is really about saying, no, this was a platform that, the technology aside, it enables that process. So the process that leads to the things that you want and think you have to hire the cool kids to get, this is actually it. And the kids that you have are perfectly fine.
I think this is the I don't know, the narrow path you have to walk, where on one side you need that domain expertise and you need the understanding, but at the same time you don't want to get locked into the way of doing things, right? Like nothing's more dangerous or damaging than that's the way we do things around here. So, and it's not just about, I mean, to me, and this is one of the things about Pivotal or even the spirit of the Agile manifesto. If you go, and this is something I always read when I finish my talks at Agile. I almost always have something that mentions this, or I tie it back to infrastructure when I was talking about DevOps stuff and talking about architecture or whatever, talking about culture, talking about but the very, very beginning of the Agile Manifesto starts out with, we are uncovering better ways of developing software by doing it and helping others do it. Right? And I think that's the thing that everyone sort of spins up on the this over that, this over that, this over that. We're building software, we're getting better at it, we're doing it, and we're helping others do it. Like, that's the game.
And I want to add something that I think we run into a lot as well, and that's lily gilding is a very common problem where people are convinced that they have this one weird trick to make whatever piece of the process work so much better, but then it breaks the actual integration of the whole process, so it's actually worse. And that leads to things like DIY paths, where people are convinced, oh no, if I have my my pet framework as the basis for this, then it'll work 1% better, and that's the right thing for my business, right up until I quit next year and go to some startup, and then they're stuck with it, right? And so people have to recognize that it's more, there's a very narrow set of opinions, right? That path is narrow, and as long as you're on it, it actually doesn't really matter which precise opinions you're embodying, as long as they're on that narrow path. And in our case, we've got some really well-informed opinions, right? We're constantly engaged with customers, reinforcing and validating those opinions, and we're encoding those opinions in the platform. And that feedback is found nowhere else, right? You don't actually have another company building a platform for delivering cloud-native architectures like this where all of those things are true. So it's pretty key, and I think that transformation aspect, people lose it in obsessing over the technology or obsessing over the specific process. And I think that's probably an Agile problem as well, Cloud Foundry aside, that people get lost in the process and they forget what it's for.
I think that's an interesting segue to a company that's using our opinions on a massive scale. Do you guys mind talking about that?
Which one?
Who would that be, James?
I know there are many people using our opinions on a massive scale, but this is a particularly massive company. Let's see if we can guess.
We're all waiting for you to drop a name so that we know it's okay to talk.
I would reference something that happened in the news. Someone wrote up a thing that was published.
Well, so GE, a company, I believe, aren't they founded by Thomas Edison long, long ago? Like, don't they go back to Edison?
It goes back a ways.
I think it goes back to Edison doing his approach. I could be totally wrong, but I'm pretty sure.
Right. And then the bankers came in. It's a good story.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty noble beginnings, right? It's been 20 years since Mark Andreessen did Netscape, but let's just say Edison's up there. And so they've decided, Jeff Immelt, their CEO, has decided that, all of these hardware platforms that they have really are extensions of a kind of common software platform as they go into the future. And they launched, after a lot of R&D jointly with Pivotal, something called GE Predix and Preview internally, and they did some press about it this week. So that was a pretty amazing thing. And the cool thing about the partnership is it's gotten so deep now that they actually are explicit that Pivotal Cloud Foundry that they're using as the core of the platform, for GE. And I have a little bit of back channel that I think I can share, having worked in that platform. That's it's going to be pretty impressive. But they did a bunch of news in Fortune and other places this week, doing a lot of interviews on it. So that was a very exciting partner that uses those opinions that are embodied in the platform, so that they can quickly get to adding, value at more of an industrial scale in a very, process and business specific way. I guess you guys haven't been as, yeah. I mean, I think one cool thing that I had another customer. It was really cool. It's a small email, smaller compared to GE. Like, who's not smaller compared to GE? Email marketing company that did a reference call with Harel Kodesh, the CTO of GE. And the one thing that blew their mind was the vast scale of number of apps and kind of containers or app instances you might talk about in the hundreds of thousands to millions that GE is going to run on this platform. And then they talked about their operations team in the low tens. And the response was that I saw from this particular exchange was, wow, are you kidding me? We have 60 operations people just for our sub-billion-dollar email marketing operation. And you're going to run hundreds of thousands of things on this platform with a team in the low tens. So I think that's going to be something, Schaefer, just people in the news. Bridget is joining your team.
Indeed.
That's actually very newsworthy. We should have brought that up.
We kind of mentioned it before. We mentioned it.
I probably missed it last week when you were on with Josh. And one of the things that we're doing with GE that I think is really cool is we're gonna do a little bit of a shared operations model. So some of the folks that we're going to embed, we have such a close collaboration with them, embed a couple of our engineers right on their operations team in order to learn more and more about what Cloud Foundry looks at just really massive scale. And I think the projections for that operations team for the overall platform are like I said, low tens to even sub 10 in some use cases. So I think that'd be an amazing thing that I really think it'd be cool with Bridget, who's just an amazing operations person by her training on her own, could participate in like running a hyperscale GE Predix cloud along with us, and to really sort of live what we talk about a lot on this show, in terms of operational leverage. But let's talk about it in terms of, hey, here's a company that wants to run at as large a scale imaginable, sub Google and others, industrially.
Yeah, and let's tie it back to the whole conversation about opinions.
Yep.
And prescriptiveness. Part of that exercise is we're going to be making the operational side of Cloud Foundry more and more prescriptive to express a set of opinions about how we believe this stuff should be operated day to day, how it should be monitored, right? How you should do capacity planning, how you should do troubleshooting. All of it needs to be part of the platform, and again needs to express a set of opinions, and in fact those opinions need to be supported by the frameworks, right? So we have that feedback loop again. So embedding folks like Bridget will help drive us in that right direction.
Yeah, I'm excited about her being able to potentially to be, without speaking for what's going to exactly happen. It'd be pretty cool to take someone like Bridget and just have her be on the operations team for a couple of weeks as part of that, and then be able to go talk about that experience and what it meant.
Yeah, I know she's looking forward to it. She's like 2 weeks away from starting.
Yeah, I can't wait. We did have one operational snafu, not to always be breaking our arms to pat ourselves in the back, from our friend who's an engineer at a large money management firm in the UK. He previously tweeted about how amazing Ops Manager was. Did you guys see this came out today? He wrote a blog. Let's see.
What's the blog?
I read it today while shopping with Stephanie. I was literally sitting in some boutique, like the sad boyfriend row in boutiques where you get the little chair you sit and they sequester you. And I was reading this this blog today. It's a use case where they exhausted the ephemeral disks allowed in the DEAs, and they scaled up the ephemeral disk allowed. But it took the DEAs still schedule the crashed apps ephemeral disk inside them. So there was a little bit of behavior about scaling out DEAs versus trying to scale them up because they retained the crashed apps. So I'm interested in hearing, how we get more prescriptive on some of the advice for that. I hated for a user to be discovering that a little bit in the wild, but also great that we have such a smart group of users blogging about some of these edge cases. Let me see if I can find the blog to share.
What version were they on?
I think 1.4. They're the ones that just upgraded.
Yeah, I did not read it yet.
Yeah, I'll get a link for you in 1 second.
Software has this tendency to not be perfect. I don't know if anyone's noticed that before.
Yeah, it's just the multi-dimensions of DEA capacity, right? So DEA has memory in the auction, but it also has ephemeral disk to schedule. And this is the case where you exhaust one but not the other, and what the behavior looks like. And I think
So does that just mean that there's kind of like missing the information in the auction or the scheduling?
Well, it's not missing in the scheduling because the system reported appropriately cannot stage. It's like, hey, I got no capacity left. But when they looked at their metrics around memory, that didn't make immediate sense. So they were looking operationally at memory-only metrics, I believe.
Okay.
Whereas the system behaved appropriately. The system said, I got nothing for you, buddy. You're out of space. I can't stage this app. I can't push this app. And they first looked at their memory available, and I believe they got to disk. I don't know where this went. I definitely want to find the link.
So they were making images that were big, or why'd they run out before? Why'd the disk run out before
because, and I wish Bear was on. He knows the guts and internals of all of this really well. Maybe Tushar, maybe you've ever seen this in doing ops.
Yeah.
The crashed apps were retaining they kept the ephemeral disk on the DEA after they were crashed for 1 hour, in case you wanted to go look.
I see. So they crashed the apps. Those apps were holding the disk, but they freed their memory, and so you thought you had capacity, but they're still holding the disk.
Correct. Okay. And they had to go through and figure that out. Tushar, have you ever seen this? Do you want to comment?
No, I haven't seen it, but it might be an interesting metric to add to our dashboard, seems like.
Yeah. Let's see here. But I think what the point I'm going is that it's great that we have such a shared set of operational, procedures around the platform, and it is structured such that when one person has this issue, we can quickly kind of rally around it, make it more obvious. Everyone's going to have that same operational experience. You're not having to go invent this on your own.
Yeah, this. I guess it's not unexpected when you think about it, but.
Yeah, it's Daniel Jones. Let me get the link out.
Were they running it? They were running it on what infrastructure service?
This is on VMware. Daniel's a really smart engineer. He's over in the UK at this major money management firm over there, and they've been really pleased with the platform. But this is just his notes.
So how much of this will basically be the same behavior with Diego too, right? Because it would still hold the disk.
Yeah, I want to check into it, of course. I mean, I'd like to talk to the engineering team directly about it. But it's an edge case where you can exhaust ephemeral disk before you exhaust memory, and what that means and how you debug it. And I'm also curious how we think about how fast you want to exhaust, how fast you want to flush those in cases where you're running close to your overall allowed capacity.
I mean, it's a policy thing, right? Like you want these around for this reason or you don't, and you could probably tune that.
Yeah. No, it was just great to see some commentary and best practices from the wild. And I just think we talk about the positives, and this was a case where this is a little bit of experience required to figure out what happens when you run out of one resource but not another.
I mean, it also kind of begs to have some simple operational visualization. So you're like, you wouldn't make those decisions if you had kind of a easily represented or a digested visual representation of the capacity.
Yeah, and I think he also made a nuanced point that it's better to add an additional DEA than it is to vertically scale up the DEAs you have in this use case. So it was a kind of a pooling algorithm kind of commentary about it as well. So it'd be good to. I'm gonna chat up Unsee and Bear about it tomorrow. But it was an interesting field feedback on ops.
It turns out managing state and distributed systems not so easy.
It's I would say this is more like resource auction, but yeah, it's it's a bunch of failed app images basically clogging the system.
I mean, it's not the same thing as doing a leader election or anything, but
that's what I mean. Like, I wouldn't consider it state in the sense of transactions in flight.
I mean, it's more about the cache. Like, how long until you purge this cache?
Yeah, that it seemed like more of a caching issue to me, right? Which is like, okay, we're doing a retention of these images on each DEA for X amount of time, and how you configure that. And better to scale out the number of DEAs than to try to. What they did is they scaled up the DEA, so he tried to add more disks to the DEA, but they were still kind of behind on the overall capacity. And it also revealed the need for the isolation groups work that's coming, because they hadn't been scaling out the number of DEAs as much, because they wanted to know roughly how the apps were spread across the various VMs. So I do think that the more fine-grained policy around placement and scheduling of apps and DEAs is definitely a cool path that we're going down. So anyway, I appreciated him writing that blog up, and he's been a big fan. I'm glad that he was out contributing that to the community.
I was hoping we could get some kids over there in London to jump on.
It's pretty late, but maybe it's not late enough.
It's actually early there for them.
That's what I mean.
It's 7:42 right now.
I was hoping Ben LaPlanche would wake up. Ben was the guy that, if you look on the thread with Daniel, who responded, he said, sounds like a good talk for Berlin CF Summit.
And that's the team that's doing all the service work too, right?
Yeah, I really wanted Ben to come on and talk about what he's doing with Cassandra, because I think that we haven't made enough noise at all about the level that we're managing the Cassandra lifecycle around. Here's cluster upgrade, here's cluster expansion, here's cluster backup. All of this integrated lifecycle work that we're doing on Cassandra that Ben's leading is, I think, far and away above everything else happening in the community, where a lot of it's just like cluster up, and then meet space. So, I mean, if there's $1 million question in our industry I wish I knew the answer to, is like, what a win, actually structured, data services management, or cluster up then meet space.
I mean, it goes back to what we're articulating about promises and contracts with the platform, and what is the actual promise that you could keep about some of these data services. Because you don't want to be, I mean, I think what's happening with the other work people are doing is they're like, hey, here's a bunch of ways you could do ad hoc automation, good luck, have fun. And we're trying to bake in some of these operationalized best practices so that you can have services that run with some degree of reliability and backups and whatever the rest of the stuff you have to do depending on the service.
I actually was looking through the metrics, and we actually monitor. Bosch emits a ephemeral disk percent usage metric, which we alert on, and we generate a page essentially. So, like, we have that covered in our monitoring. Like, when you just monitor ephemeral disk usage on all Bosch VMs, and Bosch emits a metric to.
So you're saying back to the ephemeral disk that you would.
Yep.
It would not be a mystery to you that you didn't have that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, Tushar, maybe you want to talk a little bit about something cool happened this week. I believe you guys moved to the community elk stack for some of your monitoring you're doing on PDubs.
Yeah, we are actually migrating to it. So we have an extra endpoint right now. We'll completely migrate in like 2 weeks' time. So I'm actually right now, last week I'm rotating onto the Bosch team. So I don't know much of what's happening in CloudOps like
Yep.
immediately, but from the email thread, it looks like the China team is like highly involved in like building this relationship with like David Liang, who like
Yep.
maintains the log search on which maintains the log search release, and we have it in our staging environment, and we are really happy with it. And we plan to migrate in like 2 weeks.
Yeah, and I think this will solve something we had previously, I believe, used primarily Datadog correctly. Um,
Yep.
Datadog, and that was sort of a wartime decision when we were migrating, um, migrating and moving, and that was a go fast kind of thing. And
Yep.
actually, the Elk stack wasn't as stable a year and a half or 2 years ago as it is today. Um, but I think it's actually to Ben's point around expressed opinions. I think getting our operations team and the product, the enterprise product, using the exact same set of software from this Elk kit that we've been using, I think could be a great move so that everyone can have a common set of dashboards and a common set of monitoring, out of the box.
Yeah, we actually are also experimenting with Grafana and OpenTSDB. So we are sending all our metrics to OpenTSDB as of now, and we are experimenting with Grafana. And I think there is some metrics flattening happening, which we are discussing with the LAMP team as of now. But it's like we are trying to use a lot of like existing tools out there and deploy them through Bosch, and instead of being dependent on Datadog. But like the nozzles that LAMP team has released are really awesome because you can just leverage metrics at multiple endpoints and like not lose your current metric system and try to experiment with newer metric systems and monitoring software.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about the community edition getting more traction on the Elk stack and eventually getting to a more mature, like here is exactly the turnkey way that we run our service, that we instruct other people to run it. When we originally made this, 2.5 years ago, the tool chains were not as mature. Um, and I think Jambe and I were debating how many people would have kind of their standard dashboards that they already had that they just wanted to plug some of our monitoring endpoints and JMX stuff into. And I've seen the community rally much more around a very opinionated way of monitoring and managing the platform out of the box, a la to Ben's point, be kind of the preferred way forward. Exactly to this point around, oh hey, well we need to make sure that we have our appropriate ephemeral disk management heads up when we're managing the platform out of the
I
box.
think the reality is most organizations don't have super sophisticated or mature operations with all this stuff in charts and graphs and all the stuff that you'd like to see.
Yeah.
So it's just one more thing for them to do when you give it to them if you've not solved that problem.
Yeah, and Ben's aware of this one customer we're working with where our advanced APM stuff that's coming, without getting too much into it, they're pretty excited about that. And then some of the elk monitoring and dashboarding, they're like, wow, we could eliminate buying some pretty premium things if you continue to add features to the platform. So that's, I think, one of the coolest things about the platform form factor is that the more you embed in it, the less you have to buy around it. And it's set up to be optimally to do that versus if you just say you're just selling WebLogic, it's harder to sell whole hog everything monitoring.
Well, just think about the rest of the story around open source in the community. If you have solved this problem in a common way, then everyone gets the leverage of everyone else's blog posts and learnings instead of each group having a one-off dashboard that they're trying to figure out.
Yeah, absolutely. And this issue that came up today at that other firm, I think it's something that quickly they figured out what was going on, and they had all the tools with Bosch to adjust how they were using it. It wasn't like some crisis. It's just more of It's great to reduce the surface area of the entire management problem down to settings like this, right? Like, hey, what are your optimal settings to run, hundreds or thousands of apps versus a lot of thankless work. On top of that one tweet today about what operations people should do on your team.
I think when you push the limits, you're always going to be outside of the what can I do by tweaking a few little config settings, right? And you're always going to have to be troubleshooting these things. And just like everything else, the truth is there aren't 50 right ways to do this, right? There's a certain set of information that you need it presented to you in a certain way, and you need to be able to interact with it and the rest of the and if we embody those in what we present, then our customers benefit from that, because very often they have never done anything like this, right? So it's not as if we're trying to supplant the normal way that they do cloud native operations, right? This is very much like the lab story, where we're coming in and we're teaching them how to do something new, and these are the tools that support it.
So, maybe to round off, because I feel like Schaefer's about to fall asleep over here, man. Somebody get this kid some coffee. Normally he's pretty feisty. He's just rolling. Oh,
we can fight about something if you want.
DevOps or something, man. I don't know.
Something. Computers.
OpenStack or tire fire. We gotta wake him up. There was this cool. I thought.
Speaking of that, how come Josh McKenty never comes hangs out with the same one?
J-Mac's on his way to Toronto right now. He's up there. He's on a flight today to Toronto. He's meeting with a lot of the biggest banks in Canada in the Toronto-Montreal corridor this week. It's pretty cool.
I know you're keeping him busy. I see.
Dude, there is no small amount of work to do right now in this market. It's incredible. It's like constantly living in like the scene from Spaceballs, man. It's sort of like ludicrous speed go. This article, our friend Brian, who wrote this?
Gracely.
Mr. Gracely wrote. I think he might have had a CFAD or two when he was writing this. He talked about structured versus unstructured, cloud-native platforms. It was kind of nice of him to organize this all together.
He was also at the Cloud Foundry Summit, and we did that podcast with him.
Yeah. So it was cool to see him pick that up, and I thought that was a really useful segmentation for the market to talk about. Hey, there's people that are taking a pretty structured approach here versus people that are giving you, plumbing approaches. I think that's a demarcation that should stick in the market and is educational.
I mean, I think, honestly, it's exciting to see what's evolving with the Cloud Foundry ecosystem, because I think that the other people that are competing, like, they don't have the story below or above that container scheduling. Oh, look at this. You're up way past your bedtime.
Did that just happen?
It's like,
hi.
It's like
2 a.m. in Minnesota?
Wait, who's up way past their bedtime?
all of us.
I actually just woke up and I was like, what time is it? What day is it? Are they still doing that? Hey, I could like join and hear about all the secrets. There's 5 minutes left.
Listen to the secrets.
So lay it on me, Andrew. What's secret today?
Oh, I'm not the keeper of the secrets.
The secret tonight, Bridget, was that Andrew was about to fall asleep. I was just teasing him because the lady was like, he was sort of like slouching over.
So we mentioned that you're probably going to be working at Pivotal if you still like us.
I'll probably be working at Pivotal. I sincerely hope I'll be working at Pivotal on account of I quit my actual other job. So
we'll leave a space on the bus for you.
Yeah, we're
Um,
excited about that.
I'm really excited actually. I think that's going to be super fun.
I was concocting this crazy plan, Bridget. I don't know if you
Okay.
saw in the news today or the news this week where GE Predix Cloud launched based on Pivotal Cloud Foundry.
Awesome.
Yeah. And one of the things we're doing with them is we're partnering on the operations of it so that
Hmm.
we're super embedded
Hmm.
um, and that we get feedback because they're running at really massive scale.
Ooh,
So
I like scale.
I was like, what if we just slipped Bridget into the stream for a couple weeks and she was driving the Predix Cloud and then could tell people about it?
That sounds super fun. When
You're
do we
like,
start?
welcome to Pivotal. Here's the wheel on helping GE.
I like this plan. I know very little about GE that I haven't gotten from 30 Rock, so we'll have to see how accurate that
It's exactly like that.
is.
Jack Donaghy is on every call.
Is the Scheinhart Wig Company like involved anywhere?
Well, that's what the paychecks will actually say, but so don't be surprised.
Oh, so Andrew, you're actually deciding that this is a late night event?
I time I can actually participate is the issue.
It's actually fine because if I go to bed at a reasonable hour, from time to time I wake up around now. So,
I'm hoping we can get some kids over in London. I keep getting promises from Colin over there at Cloud Credo that he's going to join us, but then here we are, no Colin.
do they have like, morning client meetings or whatever?
It's
That's what he keeps claiming is he has to be on site with clients.
it's like 7 a.m. Monday isn't their favorite time to just hang out.
I don't know. That's a sort of ideal time to just hang out. I mean, 1:57 a.m. Monday Central Time is a super time to hang out, as long as I'm awake. It's not like I have anything else scheduled right now.
See, that's the beauty of it. Nothing else scheduled.
I love it. So this GE thing sounds super cool, actually. But James, I would love to have you drop me a link to what news I should have been reading about it, since I was mostly I spent this last week on site in Philly with like Drama Fever, doing things like, running on-call boot camp for a whole bunch of devs because 40% of our ops team is leaving at the same time. So it's like, hey, devs, guess what? Jump into the deep end. It's actually been great. Like they're ready, and it's probably overdue. So it was a lot of
This this is a computer.
Sorry, I'm laughing. I was
uh,
just Googling to try to get you the link, and some little PaaS startup is squatting on the keyword search for GE Predix Pivotal Cloud Foundry. That's pretty desperate.
oh, oh, how cute.
It's like, I'm like, why would you buy those keywords? You'd have to be really, really deep down the rabbit hole to buy all of those keywords.
It just means that they're reading the news.
Yeah,
They read the news more than I did this week.
yeah. Let me see. I'll get you the link in Fortune.
Sweet.
Those guys are adorable.
Those guys.
Those kids.
Here's the
I
link.
have a link. You got it?
I'm chatting it to everybody. If you can look at the chat, there's one of them.
Okay,
It's
cool.
all. It was written up in Fortune, which is I don't
Got
know.
the awesome picture of a jet engine in it. That's what I like about that article.
Nice. Yeah, if you're launching a cloud and you're using a jet engine to launch it, I mean that's a pretty cool metaphor, I guess.
The
Like,
Internet of Engines.
yeah. Hopefully it's not the internet of like unpatched, unsecured jet engines. All the news that comes out of, like DEF CON and Black Hat just makes me sad.
So
DEF
on
CON.
that subject, uh, one of the messages around Cloud Foundry that really resonates strongly with customers is that they're no longer guessing what they actually are running at any point, because that's a common enterprise pattern. Is something got deployed, and now we're going to do an audit to figure out if anything on our platform is vulnerable to the latest CVE. And for us, it's within a few hours, everything is patched, and we know it for certain because nothing got deployed, because no one's going to just deploy a Docker image, right?
Oh, hey, deploying a Docker image is super great as long as you actually generated the image.
But then
But
how do
how
you
many?
keep
But how
track of
many
what
people actually did?
what went into it? And suddenly, what you actually want is a structured platform, not a DIY patch.
Yeah. I
And
think
so,
this also plays into the conversation where people are talking about things like CMDBs and ITIL and how they want to have these processes and also cling to the past, as we started with the culture and process thing, where if you have something like Cloud Foundry, you basically have something that's auditing and enforcing better than any CMDB that you ever imagined before.
it will employ several fewer people, however.
It will employ several fewer.
It will free several people up to add incredible new value to the world.
Incredible business value. And so on the IoT connected car front, two things. We'll start with the snark, which is all of these people wired various VCs crapping their respective pants because the big value in Tesla, where they're really showing how awesome they are, and they are, but not for this reason, is that they can do OTA updates of their software, which actually just means that they have realized that the car is a gigantic mobile phone and act accordingly, right? Everyone else still thinks that they're just cars. So totally missing the forest for the trees on that one. And props to Tesla, thumbs down to Wired and a certain VC who shall remain nameless at A16Z. Moving on.
See,
Cool part.
what I'm actually really excited about Tesla for is not even so much the cars. They seem to be more of a test bed for the batteries. It's like battery pack, an unsolved problem. Tesla solves that. They make all
They're a
the
technology company that happens to make cars. This was actually an earlier part of the conversation. So it's like you were here. You're already part of the machine. You show up and you say the right things. So the other thing that we're doing is we are working with a lot of car companies, and we want to ensure that our story around connected vehicle is as strong as the rest of the platform story, in that we've got opinions that we're expressing in it, but in this case there's so much in flux that we actually need to dig way down into the protocols that are actually being developed. So we're collaborating with a number of different folks to make that happen, so that it's from the bottom up, actually built to be secure, rather than us trying to sort of paper over it with a PAS, no matter how awesome.
Cool.
The end.
I have one more topic. It's not even cool like Secret's cool. We are getting asked, so my buddy Matt Stein, who wrote the Cloud Native App Migration book, he gave a talk to about 800 developers at a big box hardware store. So there were only two, and only one of them uses orange as a motif. But he was there, and he's got this like Stadium Rock style presentation, like 800 developers. I'm like, how do you even like tune your guitar to approach 800 developers at once, all in one company?
Hello, developers.
The Cloud Native Roadshow is here. And it was really cool that we got a really warm reception. And just talking with them and with a lot of other people, there's almost an infinite demand for us to go in and do workshops to like help people think logically through the change, from kind of present state to future state on a kind of a cloud native spectrum. If you call that as a sum all for a lot of these, trends that we all have been rallying around. And I'm just actually real time, talking to Schaefer and others. How the heck do we quench this demand? Like, do we What do we do? Because there's a lot of one-on-one requirements of like people who really just want to meet Matt and talk to Matt. Um, so I'm kind of open to ideas, but it seems like we could really spend a lot of time hands-on with folks. Andrew.
I think part of the problem is there's a limited number of people who can credibly give that presentation. And we're trying to hire all of them, but
Hey, wait a minute.
Yeah, and Josh Long was at Comcast this week, and we can say Comcast because Comcast publicly tweeted how awesome it was that Josh Long was at Comcast.
Oh, hey, isn't there's like a Comcast thing in Minneapolis this week, I think. I should probably register for that. Or just show up at it.
I think it's CenturyLink is what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah, CenturyLink. I'm mixing up all of the various and sundry telcos.
Yeah, that's a roadshow with CenturyLink, who is a big partner of ours. I had dinner with Jared Ray, their CTO, Wednesday night with my buddy Ian. And they've been playing a long ball with us on CF, and they're replatforming a lot of CenturyLink IT to CF, and they also offer it as a service.
Cool. But back to your Comcast point.
Well, I want to make a quick CenturyLink point, and then we'll go back to Comcast point. I love CenturyLink's story because they have arguably more experience running Cloud Foundry as a service than anyone else. And then after years of tracking, the open source project and running it as a service, they decided to partner with Pivotal, and they run Pivotal Cloud Foundry on their internal IT and resell Pivotal Cloud Foundry to their customers. So just kind of going through that full cycle and then recognizing what Pivotal could add to the story, well, I think that's a big win for the product we're working on.
Cool.
So what do we do about these various unquenchable giant Fortune 100 enterprises that need us to go door to door, Andrew? I'm really curious what we should do to help. Like, sending Josh out to Comcast was really fun. I then like immediately went to my inbox and I forwarded the results to like our other top account reps. And I'm like, hey, should we apply Josh directly to the forehead at You guys remember that ad? Apply directly to the forehead.
There's only so much Josh to go around. Between Josh and we're trying to hire a few more Josh Long style evangelists. Stein's there.
Yeah.
But I think part of it we just have to get a little bit better also about force multiplication, where you could do some of this stuff with other media, blog posts, whatever. Like the emergent patterns that are there that everyone's using with things like the Netflix open source. I mean, really what Josh and Stein are showing them are all the things. Spring Cloud is largely right now, and we have some plans for this to expand, but it's basically all these Lego bricks that you get from the Netflix open source to go build your own microservices.
Yeah, I mean, Spring Cloud has reached its Stadium Rock era, I believe. So I think maybe we just start renting stadiums. It's like, hello, Cleveland.
Not gonna lie, that sounds super fun.
Right? Doesn't that sound fun? Like the Cloud Native Stadium Rock Tour?
The Cloud Native Stadium.
So are we going to hire a full-time pyrotechnics expert?
Absolutely. I was just putting that in the budget for that.
Oh.
Because fireworks are not cheap.
No.
Having that.
Oh, boy.
You should also make sure that these are outdoor sporting facilities that you're renting, or
we better sell a lot of software.
They might have an issue with you setting off fireworks for ones that are like a dome or something.
I wonder if we rented a giant place, how many people we could get.
What's the upper limit? What's the?
I wonder how many cloud native developers we could get into one setting. That would be really fun.
So Stein's at the record right now with the last run.
Well, about 800 for one company seemed pretty big in one room.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty big swath.
Sounds like Waters is proposing a brand new conference.
Well, that's actually we'll take that offline.
I just have an inbox full of people, and if you give me a email, I can hit you up with. In the meantime, before you start, Bridget, I'll show you. Like, I have an inbox full of people begging for cloud native workshops. So
That sounds fun.
the public hungers.
I think it's also the evolution of the, there's really a movement in the industry where, I don't know, when the tribe of the primates sees one primate do something, and then they're like, oh, so that's how you break open the coconuts. Then all of a sudden all of them can do it. That's what they're like excited to have a new food source.
Reasonable.
Absolutely.
I too would like to break open some coconuts.
I'm pretty sure you already know how to break open coconuts, Andrew. It's possible that you've been teaching people how to break open coconuts for some time.
I think we need a 2001 style intro.
It's
right?
it's the royal eye.
Developers with like femurs bashing on each other.
Nice.
Monolith. Whoa.
We need to do a monolith parody with Cloud Foundry.
Or, as Michael was saying in the chat a little while ago, developers.
That scene where he brings the femur down into the other pile.
Is that Clishan, Michael, who's hanging out with us? Like
No,
Michael Coyote.
that's Michael Coyote.
I was because Clishan was quoting. Yeah, it is him. He's undercover. He's a lead developer of RabbitMQ, and
It's not Michael Clishan. It's not.
No, it's a different one.
He's in a wildly different time zone. He has no excuses for not being here.
No, but Clishan is overhearing what we said. Look at him online. He's like overhearing. Deploying a Docker image is great if you've actually built the image. He's on Twitter right now overhearing what Bridget just said.
What?
You must be watching.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering.
Yeah, it's fine when you're doing one.
Yeah.
10,000 deploys later, and it's not so fun.
I can't wait to hear you guys argue about this. It's going to be really fun. All right, well, it's 12:30 at night, almost here.
Do we have any secrets?
My secret is I have to leave at 6:30 to get to the first customer meeting tomorrow.
Where are you headed?
In the AM.
Where are you?
I'm just driving south.
Oh, no, I mean, I have no idea where you actually are. Like, you say 6:30, I don't even know which time zone you're in. I don't know if that's 3 hours from now. Like, I have no idea.
It's 6 hours from now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's not as terrible.
Got to sell some software.
Yeah, I got nothing secret because honestly, it's like you already know my exciting thing, which is I get to work for Andrew, and it is awesome.
It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be okay. Everything is gonna be fine.
I've been told it's at this pivotal place, which sounds pretty great. But mostly, I just get to go work for Andrew.
Like, if it was Circle K, you'd be like, it's cool, I'm working for Andrew.
Pretty much.
The mantra is the prima facie insanity of the plan.
That was my quote, Bridget. Like, you got to know, like, me, Josh, Ben, Andrew, we're kind of friendly with each other before, but, like, we all had our own, like, territorial egos about everything we did.
Mm-hmm.
So I called it the prima facie insanity plan, which is let's put all of the smartest people I know together all in one little lifeboat and see if we can row to technological safety together.
We're also kind of problem children, so
all of us.
So we're all just
thankfully none of us are in the same room at the same time.
Yeah, but hey, Bridget, can I show you what happened when Ben was in Seattle? Hold on, I'm going to embarrass Ben.
Uh-oh.
Oh no, don't do this.
Oh, it's happening.
Don't do this.
It's happening.
I cannot.
Trouble.
It's happening. It's happening.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
It was bad enough the first time.
Oh, it's happening again now.
No one knows what Wires is doing except for Ben.
What happens if you bring Ben to customer meetings, Bridget? I don't know. It's right in the chat.
Let's see.
So no one at home can see.
Well, thank goodness
Wow.
for that.
Wait, what?
Hold on, I'll do screen share.
No, I'm looking at the
No,
tweet. I'm confused. I guess I don't know anything about Ben, so I
that's where we should leave it.
I'll tell you the backstory sometime.
Ben's relationship to EC2 is something that is unclear to me. Let's put it that way.
All right. Well, I think this has been a great CFAD, and we should wrap it up.
History is written by the people that stay at the company.
Yeah, exactly.
Apparently,
Exactly.
trouble.
All right. Unless anyone has anything, I have secrets, but they're not anything we could tell yet. So.
Aw.
My coolest secret is that my first job as an engineer was for a company called Level 3 that put networks in the ground. And I have a customer dinner and EBC with them Monday night and Tuesday. And I like jumped over the ball and changed my schedule to do it because I'm just so excited about talking to Level 3 again. I haven't talked to Level 3 since 1999 or 2001. So I have a small homecoming discussion this week I'm really pumped about.
Oh, actually, I guess on that note, like my first job out of college, and by out of college I mean it was, 1999, so I left the university without being done, finished later one class at a time, was for US West, which became Quest, which became CenturyLink. So there will be people at this thing that I'm totally going to go crash on Thursday who I might even know, or I might have even worked with in like 1999 at an ISP running a news server. Oh, yes.
This is the 1999 reunion week for both of us.
It's certainly possible.
We're back.
Let's do this.
And now it's cloudy.
All right. Let's call it, and then we'll do it again next week. Maybe we can get some kids in London. I'm going to harass Colin.
Maybe give him a little more warning next time.
He knows it's every Sunday. Come on.